Oh, one of the perfect ones. Eh?
Welcome back once again, everybody, to the Air Radio Show, where we talk about Leah's trivia and a little bit of news.
A little bit of news. Yeah, we get rid of it early because we don't want to be spending the whole show. I want to talk about rock and roll.
And we're on a really, really cool location. We want to talk about rock and roll. We're in a really cool location when it comes to rock and roll. We are in a brewery.
A craft brewery.
A craft brewery called the Furnace Room Brewery in Georgetown, Ontario, Canada. And very cool place. And their most infamous beer, anybody can look this up, it's a cool story. It's a guy called Chicken Man, and it's the Chicken Man Pale Ale.
We had our own Chicken Man here in Georgetown, Ontario, Canada, and he used to ride a bike with a chicken on the back.
Actually, it was in the front.
Yeah, on the front.
Originally.
Okay.
When he had to go to the three-wheeler, then it went to the back. But he was a very iconic gentleman here in town, and just had a great name for himself, and everybody knew who the Chicken Man was. And people would ask, "Oh, who's that guy who rides bike with the Chicken Man?"
That's the Chicken Man.
You know, and now we're working with this brewery as well, and hopefully we're going to get into some talks with a Little Ricky beer. So
well, we'll see about Little Ricky beer. Little Ricky was a taxi driver who passed away locally here.
Yeah, taxi driver for what, about 40 years, eh?
40 some odd years. Yeah, he was amazing. I guess we'll look at the...
Let's get the garbage out of the way.
And don't forget, we're brought to you by Nunavut Tourism this week.
Maybe they'll get back to you.
Yes, yeah, they have got back to me, actually.
Okay.
All the gang up there in Iqaluit and Rankin Inlet, and some of the most gorgeous scenery in Canada is in Nunavut.
Absolutely.
And the north, and it's a wonderful place if you're planning on coming to Canada. Check out. You know, we like to look in the other corners. You know, there's Edmonton and the big cities, but there's so many little things in Canada.
Cool things. And you can go out there and see some culture you'll never see anywhere else.
That's right. And the native population up there, beautiful people, very friendly, always wanting to teach you about their ways and the way they live.
Their culture and all that stuff.
Now, here's the headlines this week. She wasn't criticizing Trudeau apparently during the G20 confrontation. That's according to China. And that was interesting, the G20 there. Yeah. And Nancy Pelosi stands down as the leader of the House, the U.S. Democrats.
She's been a leader for like
40 some odd years.
Since the 80s.
Yeah, I didn't know she was 82.
I didn't either. And her husband, I guess, is doing better. So
he got hit by a hammer.
What a whole story that is there.
That's probably one of the reasons she's stepping down too. It's had enough. It's 82. What do you want that for? And a national dental care benefit is now a law in Canada.
Yep.
So
it's now in place in Canada. They've been talking about it. It had to be in place before December of this year. To talk about squeaking it under the wire. Berated and agitated what's being said about Trudeau's G20 exchange with Chinese President Xi. Iran hands out more death sentences to anti-government protesters. Big shock there. Poland, NATO, says missile strike wasn't a Russian attack.
That was scary, man. When you see,
but is Poland protecting Russia, or are they
right on the border? It's a NATO country.
Yeah,
you know what I mean. And it was when I saw that, I was like, wow. Now we're you know, but apparently it was a Ukrainian missile that they sent off in the
wrong direction.
Thank God. That could have been a real shit show.
Yeah, absolutely. This is funny.
Canada is officially in a flu epidemic after crossing seasonal threshold, and the former U.S. President Donald Trump announces a White House bid for 2024. He's coming back. We can't get rid of this guy, can we?
No.
And as we were saying, unlikely that it was unlikely that Poland's missile fired from Russia was from Russia, as we just stated. That was from Biden.
Joe Biden said that.
And no injuries after two planes collided at Montreal's Trudeau Airport.
I know, eh? Yeah. That's scary right there.
Clipped the tail right off of one of the American Airlines planes. Wow. What else is going on here?
Still a race to control the House Majority. It's down to the wire down in the States. And this, again, after Boyer Solomon hearing this, Roberta Flack is unable to sing after an ALS diagnosis.
So Roberta Flack has Lou Gehrig's disease, as well as Boreas Salming, the great Toronto Maple Leaf player.
Yeah, that was brutal watching that.
Oh, did you see that?
Oh my God.
I was crying like a baby. I couldn't.
I had fallen.
Just
Yeah.
When I saw Sittler start, that was it. I was gone.
Did you see the emotion in Sittler?
Yeah.
My God.
Well, we both.
And I'm watching him after interviewing him, what, 2 years ago, 3 years ago?
We were there the same day with
Yeah.
Daryl Sittler with
Like,
pictures
just,
and everything.
You know, and he made a point. You know what I loved about Daryl was the next day when we were there, he had no commitment to us. He had no commitment to come see us that day, but he made a point of coming by, checking on us and saying hi. And you know,
he's a good guy.
Great guy. I obviously was a huge fan growing up watching Daryl Sittler.
You know who else was a cool guy? Was Colton Orr.
Colton was awesome, and the mitts on him.
Yeah.
Man, you wouldn't want to get hit with those puppies, I tell you.
He's a big boy, eh? He's a big boy. All right, so
Biden and Xi, they're meeting.
They're meeting in Bali, blah blah blah. Biden and Xi, but whatever. The doctors are urging Canadians to avoid getting infected and mask up amid our viral surge here. And dreams come with disappointment as Canada names 26-man World Cup soccer roster. And of course, we're heading to the World Cup, which starts Sunday.
Yeah.
World Cup of soccer.
Where alcohol is not permitted, but yet it's sponsored by Budweiser.
Yes, but you can't drink in the stands. Well, you got to remember where they are. They're in Qatar.
I know.
And
you
then
see some rioting going on.
Our first game is against Belgium.
Yeah.
You know, we're up against some stiff competition. Elon Musk, who of course Leah is in love with, warns Twitter's survival at stake as staff quits.
I heard he's an asshole to work for.
Well, yeah.
And
not according to Leah. She loves everything about him.
Now they've fired 10 people because they filed a complaint against them to the company, to the HR department. So they fired them instead of dealing with the complaint. So
finally, before we head into Leah's trivia, the Ukraine celebrations as Kyiv takes back the key city of Kherson.
Or what's left of it.
The Russians are getting their asses kicked.
It really does look that way to me.
And I feel sorry for the Russian soldiers. I really do. They're out there. It's just horrible.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I know there's been many of them that have come forward and said, we don't want to fight.
And now they're recruiting people older and older and older and older and older.
Just to
Pretty soon you can have a 70-year-old guy standing there with a gun. You know what I mean? But
oh my God. Now we get into the
Leah's trivia.
Fun part. Leah's trivia. Queen guitars, Brian May's first guitar, I love this story, was made from 19th century fireplace.
Really?
The neck of this guitar is mahogany, made from a Victorian era fireplace mantle. The building which housed the fireplace was long gone, and Harold happened to have this mantle in his workshop. Brian filled the wormholes with matchsticks as he carved out the neck.
Imagine that, eh?
Him and his father, when he was younger, when he first started playing, his dad used to do things with him, with the guitars. And
Brian May is a very, very smart man.
Oh, he's got
clever.
a master's degree in
something.
Like it's just, he's a super smart guy. Well, it's like the guys from The Offspring. The one guy has a master's degree in psychology and physiology. The other guy has a master's degree in biology. Like these guys, and the other guy has a master's degree in finance. Like these guys are not stupid guys.
There's a lot of musicians that have gotten awards. And,
they went to Berkeley University in
Nobel
California.
Peace Prizes.
Not a bad band either,
They're
Offspring.
not just musicians.
Yeah.
1963, John Waitman, the headmaster of a Surrey grammar school, banned all pupils from having Beatle haircuts, saying, "This ridiculous style brings out the worst in boys physically. It makes them look like morons." Well, the mop tops, they came out with that. Before that, it was Ricky Nelson short,
God, yeah. What they do in the 60s when the hippies came out.
Yeah. Well, there was an outgrowth of the Beatles. See, the Beatles, they started everything, man. They started the hippies, too. I mean, the long hair, it was a statement to the older generation. Hey, we're not like you.
1966, the Beach Boys were #1 on the UK singles chart with Good Vibrations. As a child, Brian Wilson's mother told him that dogs could pick up vibrations from people, so that the dog would bark. That's bad vibrations. Wilson turned this into a general idea for a song.
See,
where something so simple comes from.
What a great song. You always know Good Vibrations when you hear the first part of that. Just great sound. 1984, Wham! Were at #1 on the UK album chart with Make It Big, and #1 on the US singles chart with one of my all-time favorites, Wake Me Up Before You Go-Go. And this is an interesting story about that. Michael's inspiration for the song was a scribbled note left by his Wham partner Andrew Ridgeley for Andrew's parents, originally intended to read, Wake Me Up Before You Go, but with up accidentally written twice, so Ridgeley wrote go twice on purpose. That's how Wake Me Up Before You Go-Go came about.
And when I did that, as much as I like the song, I don't like it all day, all night. And it was my earworm because I kept singing it after I did that.
Wake me up before you go.
That's it. It becomes the earworm, and it's like.
But it's the same line over and over. It's not like you're hearing the whole song.
Well, I hate getting instrumentals stuck in my head because you can't sing along to the words. You know what I mean? You have to.
That's when you start singing. Wheels on the bus go round and round, round and round.
Oh, don't start me on that one. 1988, Guns N' Roses.
It runs in your hose. Guns N' Roses get the cover of Rolling Stone with the headline Hard Rock Heroes. The magazine compiled the story that summer when the band was on tour as the opening act for Aerosmith. Aerosmith assumed they were getting the cover, but by the end of the tour, their opening act had become much more popular.
Isn't that something? Huh? Well, they were popular.
They were popular. I remember I went and saw them with the Cult at CNE. Cult was the warm-up band. Guns N' Roses was the headlining act, and we booed them off the stage. They were so bad. Axl Rose was so wasted. He was stumbling all over the stage, and it was a terrible show. And the Cult had to come out and finish the show.
Shocking.
Chris,
Axl's been known for a lot of antics.
well, yeah, that's the way rockers are. Chris Isaac, you know what his first job was? He was a tour guide in a film studio. That's not a bad job. And a little bit of history and trivia. 1974 this week, John Lennon's Whatever Gets You Through the Night hits #1 in the United States. Elton John, who sang and played piano on the track, bet John that it would hit the top spot. And as the bet's loser, Lennon has to join Elton on stage at a Madison Square Garden concert, which he does on November 28th, to a manic ovation. I remember seeing that video many times. Of Elton up there, and
his final one he's doing at Wembley Stadium. Joni Mitchell's joining him on stage.
Oh, that should be something else.
That should be something else because she's getting her stuff's coming back. Like her rehab's working. So the last interview I saw her, she was because the one before that she was rough, and then the second one I saw, she looked great. She was talking real well.
I love Joni Mitchell.
She's very anxious too, and I'd be curious to see her follow through on this for that reason.
Yeah.
She doesn't like to perform live.
Yeah.
No, she never has.
No, never
really.
did.
But you know, like some of the tunes that she are just iconic from the '70s. Joni Mitchell is very part of the Canadian, big part of the Canadian landscape. 1985.
We Built This City by Starship. It's #1 on the Billboard Hot 100. It is later named the worst song of all time by Blender magazine.
I got a buddy of mine.
I'm not a fan of that song.
No, I'm not either. Jamie Vernon, one of my buddies who he wrote the Canadian rock encyclopedia. Very knowledgeable about music. Whenever he talks about that song, he has nothing good to say.
Yes.
It's got to be one of the worst. Another one is Lovin' You by Minnie Riperton. Just cuts right through you. Seasons in the Sun, Terry Jacks. Oh, please. I love Terry Jacks, but that song, shelve it. And okay, here we'll do one more. A wee tidbit. Before becoming Elvis Presley's agent, you know what Colonel Tom Parker ran a troop of dancing chickens.
That's hilarious.
Isn't that awesome? He stepped up with Elvis.
Yeah, just a little bit.
But they had the same moves. You know?
Not surprising, Courtney Love was sent to a reform school after being caught stealing a Kiss t-shirt from a Woolworth store.
Unbelievable.
Hey, but she followed the music genre.
Yeah,
right?
exactly, yeah.
Going way back, we like to dig up sometimes. The 1926 this week, the first network radio broadcast, 4.5 hours of varied performances from New York's Waldorf Astoria Hotel and other remotes from around the country airs on the new National Broadcasting Company. That was in 1926 on this.
Now known as NBC.
That's right. And, yeah, you know the NBC.
There you go.
NBC right there.
It's a cool story. I love this, and I've heard this one before, and I love it. 1969, Janis Joplin calls out a policeman at her concert in Tampa, Florida, when he uses a bullhorn to yell at an audience members who have left their seats. She pipes up and says, "Don't fuck with those people." "What are you so uptight about? Did you buy a $5 ticket?" The cop tells Joplin that she needs to tell the crowd to remain seated, and she replies, "I'm not telling them shit." After more stage ranting where Joplin threatens to kick his face in, she's arrested after the show, charged with using vulgar and indecent language, and after posting a $504 fine or bail, the charges are later dropped and she pays a $200 fine. So,
Well, she got her message loud and clear.
damn right.
You know,
Good for you, Janice.
Well, she cares about her fans.
Absolutely.
You know?
They weren't doing anything wrong.
No, they were standing up to watch the show because they wanted to dance.
Jim Morrison used to have some fun with the cops too,
yeah.
didn't he?
Oh yeah.
1972, Harry Chapin's son Josh is born, which gives him a new appreciation for the poem his wife Sandy wrote about her ex-husband called Cats in the Cradle. And Harry puts music to the poem and it becomes a legendary hit. That is a
His
huge
biggest hit. I would
Oh,
say,
absolutely. Absolutely.
You know, and another band, Ugly Kid Joe, covered it.
Yeah, they did.
And they did an amazing job on it.
Yeah, they rocked it up a bit.
They,
and,
but
it was-
didn't go stupid
No,
with
they
it.
didn't.
Very tasteful.
They didn't cross the line.
No.
Which I thought they were going to do,
Oh,
but they
same
didn't.
here. When I heard they were doing it, I was like,
oh, you better not cross the line with this one. This is a...
because I was at 97.7 at the time when I first got the Ugly Kid Joe first album in, and I was in love with these guys. And then when I found out they did Cats in the Cradle, I went, I don't know. And I heard it. and
These
I went,
bands will surprise you.
Oh
you know?
man, they did a fantastic job, and hopefully you guys are coming back to Canada soon.
1992, the Rock of Ages episode of Married with Children features, listen to this lineup on Married with Children. Robbie Krieger of The Doors, Mark Lindsay of Paul Revere and the Raiders was on the show, Peter Noom of Herman's Hermits, Mrs. Brown, You've Got a Lovely Walker, you know that song, and Spencer Davis, Richie Havens, John Sebastian of The Lovin' Spoonful, along with Al Bundy, who plays the Sandwich. And they were they formed Old Aid and performed We Are the Old, and the sample of the lyrics was We're the old, we've got arthritis, our gums are weak from gingivitis. I remember that episode very well. I haven't seen that episode in a long time. You could probably get that anywhere.
Oh God, yeah. Actually, you're on your Android box, you can probably find it on your Android box. So, don't know who she is. Leona Lewis' first job was a Pizza Hut assistant.
She's a pop singer in the early decades,
That's probably why I don't.
80s and 2000s, a
Probably
little
why I
bit.
don't know her.
2000.
And a little bit of history and trivia for today, or for November 12th. In 1969, John Lennon purchases the island Dornch off the Irish coast and invites any hippie who wants to live there. Come on, live there. I didn't know. See, I didn't know that.
Peace, love, and eternal grooviness.
That's
man.
right. But I didn't know that. That one slipped through the cracks. I don't know where you find this stuff from, but I didn't know that John Lennon bought an island.
If I had been older, I would have joined him, but I was too young at the time.
I would have loved it.
Might be some legal things at that point. This is a cool one. Jan Hammer would pay respects to Edgar Winter for this. Further pioneered the advancement of the synthesizer as a lead instrument by becoming the first person to strap a keyboard instrument around his neck, giving him onstage mobility and the audience interaction of guitar players. So,
Amazing guy live, Edgar Winter.
Oh.
Incredible.
him and Johnny together, what a show, man.
Absolutely. In 1983, Elton John was quoted as saying, "I'm really pleased I got married in Sydney because it meant none of my relatives could be here." Let me do one. I've got to do the Manson one. In 1934, Charles Manson is born. Why is he on a music trivia, you may ask? Well, he wrote and recorded songs before he was in prison, and not many people know that, including one called "Cease to Exist," which Dennis Wilson rewrote for the Beach Boys' "Never Learn Not to Love." So he was into music.
Oh, he was a big. That's how he got his gathering.
That's right.
It was all based on music. It really wasn't based on any kind of faith. And,
Although he was kind of a cult leader, but,
well, cultish.
but
Yeah.
oh, he was. In the
Oh,
end,
yeah.
that's how he got everybody to murder for him.
Yeah.
1964, David Bowie, then known as David Jones, appears on the BBC program Tonight as the leader of the Society for the Prevention of Cruelty to two long-haired men.
And that's a fact. He actually had an organization he created for that purpose.
He was a big thinker, David Bowie, wasn't he? Amazing guy.
Brilliant man.
He was, because he could change with every decade.
Every decade.
In the 60s, he was a pop singer, a little rock and roll. In the 70s, he was theatrical as hell. In the 80s, he got into more of the dance stuff, into the rock stuff. And then he went into his own, like, the last few years of his life. He changed. He changed with the times.
Yeah,
and amazing guy. In 1977, the Sex Pistols went to #1 on the UK album chart with their debut LP, "Never Mind the Bollocks." Never mind. But here's the Sex Pistols, the punk group's only #1 album. There it is. The album was met by a haul of controversy upon its release. The first problems involved the allegedly obscene name of the album, resulting in the prosecution of the manager of the Nottingham Virgin Record Shop for having displayed it in the window. More outrage was sparked by the lyrics of the song "God Save the Queen" and "Anarchy in the USA," or in the UK, pardon me, "Anarchy in the UK." Now, they were very controversial, but they sold records.
Yeah.
Not a big fan of theirs, to tell you the truth.
No, I never really followed their music. I tended to follow more their antics.
Their antics, exactly.
You couldn't help it. Every time they did something, it was plastered all over the news.
Yeah. I remember I was working at United DJs, and one of the DJs actually played "God Save the Queen" and "Anarchy" in the UK, and they got in shit for it. There's certain things I won't play. That's one of them. But Tony Prince, my boss, thought it was me. I said, "It's not me. I didn't play it. It was him."
Yeah. I'll point fingers in that meeting.
Now this is sad because he was big. Gary Glitter was
Gary
huge.
Glitter, glam legend, is acquitted in England's Bristol Crown Court on sexual assault on minors stemming from an incident with a fan in the 80s. However, that same day, Glitter, his real name Paul Gadd, is sentenced to 4 months in jail for 4 counts of possessing child pornography found in 1997.
I can safely say his life has been terrible since.
Oh God, yeah.
He's lived a life of pure hell.
Yeah, he ended up doing time in China as well.
Yes, and he had some horrible experiences there as well.
Yes, very bad.
It's a sad, because when I was a kid growing up in England, it was the glam rock. He had the Sweet, Gary Glitter, Slade. And he was up there. He was a great performer, and came out with some fantastic rock and roll songs, like "Rock and Roll Part 2."
Yeah.
We don't play it anymore because of
the
we don't hear Gary Glitter anymore.
Yeah. A lot of stations have done that. So.
Oh yeah, a whole bunch. Even on online radio, Gary Glitter doesn't get too often.
Yeah. Child porn is child porn.
Well, the same as Jimmy Savile, the disc jockey in England, who I thought was absolutely amazing when I was a kid. I copied everything he did. He was an icon to so many, and to find out
the fucking sicko,
the sick shit he did.
Derringer.
Yeah, there you go. You don't know people until you know people.
Until it comes out.
Until it comes out in the wash.
A lot of times it comes out, but nobody acknowledges it until somebody comes along and goes, "Whoa."
Yeah.
I've never been scared of anyone ever saying that about me, because I love everyone. You know that, and that's the way you have to go through life.
I'll tell you.
I mean,
I just don't talk to you.
Yeah. I mean, I can't imagine being that way. Either sexually or bullying other adults that you work with, and that whole thing is.
It's funny.
It's not funny.
No.
And and certain people are finding that out now, and they're on the wrong end of the stick nowadays. Well, you had your shot and you blew it, right? Shirley Manson of Garbage, here's a quote. "You could say that I got into music for the sex. I never harbored a burning desire to sing my heart out or be a star."
She just wanted to get laid.
She wanted to get lucky, that's right. And Neil Finn of Crowded House, the first gig was Elton John in Auckland, New Zealand, in 1972. He was 13 years old. Wow, that's something else. Wow.
1968, John Lennon and released the album Unfinished Music #1, Two Virgins, with a cover photo of the pair naked. Many record stores stocked it in a brown paper wrapper because nobody wanted to see those two naked.
No,
And at that time, that would have been so taboo too, right? Like it just would have been so.
gravity, well, never mind. In 1997, Tony Braxton was quoted, "I was the ugly duckling that became a swan. I was very undeveloped as a kid." But Tony Braxton was gorgeous.
Turned
I don't
out
know
to
what
be
she
a hottie.
did. Yeah. And Mariah Carey's first job? Code attendant.
I could see that.
Yeah.
I could see that.
Here's some history about Townsend
Townsend,
again.
yeah, this is cool. Especially back then, 1990. Pete Townsend of the Who tells Newsweek that he's bisexual. In the November 14th, 1990 issue, Townsend explains, "I know how it feels to be a woman because I am a woman, and I won't be classified as just a man." Regarding Rough Boys, he said, in a way, it was a coming out, that it was a real acknowledgement of the fact that I'd been surrounded by people that I really adored and was actually sexually attracted to, who were men. And that side of me responded to those people was a passive side and a subordinate side. So,
Coming out, whatever. Everybody
especially
does.
back in the 90s, like that was.
Townsend was a bit of a nutter.
Oh,
though.
he was a big nutter.
He's got a bit of a temper. Yeah, bisexual nutter. There you go. 1997 at a Towers Records in-store performance in New York City, Green Day trashed the place, smashing instruments, pouring beer on the CD racks, and spray painting the windows. Their label happily pays the $50,000 in damages. Green Day prove they're still punk to the core.
And because they did it, they sold tons of albums and became even a bigger band. So
I don't know. If I was the manager at Tower Records or the owner, I'd be pretty goddamn well pissed off.
I would have
at
been saying
doing that.
$100,000.
This isn't a WKRP episode, you asshole.
Scum of the
They should have
earth.
got royalties for what they were.
Well, they
bringing
should have,
back.
but I can understand to a certain point, but when you start ruining someone else's, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And they just did it. They obviously did it because they knew what would happen.
Oh, absolutely.
We all watched that WKRP episode with the band.
Scum of the earth.
Scum of the Earth, they were there.
In fact, I can remember that, and I can't remember to walk out of the house with my bloody insulin. It's just
No, that's
mind-boggling.
right.
So,
Well, if you start flailing around, we'll take care of you. Don't worry.
just put
Don't worry,
shove me in
folks,
the
if he's
forehead.
flopping there. He just
Shove me
forgot
in
his
the
meds. But we've had a good week, and we're here at the Furnace Room in Georgetown, Ontario, craft
Canada.
brewery.
Great craft brewery place. You get a chance, check them out on Facebook.
Yeah.
And if you're touring out this way, stop in and check it out. It is very cool. You can see all the vats and how everything's done. Yeah, that's very cool. We wanna
Chicken
thank-
Man's bike is here.
Yeah, Chicken Man's bike is here. We're going to go take a look at that.
We're going to go take a look, some pictures, and
And we want to thank Andy and his crew for letting us invade their space.
don't forget the Air Radio Network, 3 radio stations. We have FM 108.ca, Canada's oldies station, and we play music from the 50s, 60s, and 70s.
It's that same
And
FM
we
108.
don't come out of that. If you ever really want to go back in time, just punch us up. And we're at Radio GTA, of course, which is our worldwide Canadian, and we support Canadian tourism as well. Like
Absolutely.
the folks up in Nunavut this week who are sponsoring the show. And don't forget, if you're living outside Canada and you've always wanted to come here, you should really give us a shot, because we know how to live. There's a beautiful picture there of the ruins in Georgetown, Ontario. That's the old mill, that started this community years and years ago in the 1800s, and it's still there with a backdrop of the Credit River. And we're going to take you on a little tour around this wonderful spot here in Georgetown.
Absolutely.
With some pictures. But don't forget, we have Bill Smith on the weekends with the perfect music mix, music from 2000 and up. At night on Radio GTA. We have all of your specialty shows on the weekends, the Top 40 Timeline. We have all kinds of programming, one-hit wonders, Al Sweeney, Mark Panopoulos, and the whole gang is here on the weekends. Of course, that thing with Rich Appel, your buddy there, the king of spoonerisms on the weekend. So lots of stuff going on, and lots of things happening as always right here. All right, and we're brought to you by Nunavut Tourism this week, and we're from the Craft Brewery. And
Craft Brewery.
Halton Hills,
Georgetown,
Canada, which is Canada's hometown right here.
Absolutely.
As we, and we're getting lots of action on our YouTube channel, and it's nice to see it's growing each and every week.
Yeah.
But we have fun with the trivia. We'd like to thank Leah for putting everything together and making this show a little bit special. Now we got some beer to drink and we got some candies to eat.
So we better get busy.
We'll get out of here. And thanks for joining us this week.
For Big Daddy Russ Horton, I'm Lee Lakin, Leah Lylewood, and Andy, and the gang here at the Furnace Room Brewery in Georgetown, Ontario. Thanks for watching us. Check us out every week. We love you guys. Have yourself a great week, and we'll catch everybody on the B-side.